Snafu is a podcast that contains adult themes and language. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to Snafu, where the situation's normal, all fucked up. This is the podcast where we tell you stories of true crime, true mystery, and the truly fucked up shit that happens every single day that we just forget about. So we decided we wanted to remind you. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Corey. Thanks for taking a time out of your holiday weekend, guys, to listen to us, because as long as everything goes well, you'll be listening to us on the 4th of July, or, the 5th or the 8th, or whenever you get back to your office.
Or maybe a year from now. Either way,
yeah,
we're going to consider this...
time travelers, hi.
We're going to consider this our 4th of July episode, and we're very excited. So by the time this comes out, we will be somewhere in the Great White North.
Massachusetts, technically speaking.
It's the greatest, whitest, northest I'm ever going.
It's summertime. It's not going to be white at any point up there. Maybe
Good.
Hopefully,
I don't want to see any white.
As long as it doesn't snow.
I just don't want to be sweating when I try and lay down to sleep at night. That's all I'm asking.
I think
it's
supposed to be 60 to 80s where we'll be.
Wow, that's like Florida winter.
Yeah, it's and it's Massachusetts summer, so that's kind of what I grew up with.
Yeah, but I'm excited because it's really the furthest north I've ever gone, like I said, and I, for some reason, feel really patriotic about this 4th of July. I'm actually going to be really close to the home of the Boston Tea Party and all that kind of great northern stuff you guys talk about all the time.
The whole place where America was born. You're welcome, America. That's what Massachusetts is all about. We're not really covering a lot of that today, but Boston Tea Party, Paul Revere's Ride, Bunker Hill.
You promised I could go to a very important lady's house.
Oh yeah, Susan B. Anthony's from my hometown, so we'll head over there, and that's, all you women who can vote. The person who kind of made it so men gave you guys the right to vote is Susan B. Anthony.
Oh my God. Anyways, I will murder him in her house in a sacrifice to her.
Yeah, it's probably the smartest way to go about it.
No, I'm super excited though, and hopefully if we play our cards right, I might even get to go out to Salem.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit of a drive, but I'm seeing what we can do to get out there, because that's always a fun trip to go. I
mean, it would be something I've been hearing about since my childhood and have never expected to see, so I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, and growing up in Massachusetts, that's kind of where we went for any of our, from elementary school all the way up to high school. Oh, we're doing a class trip for the year. Oh, we're going to Salem. Oh, we went last year. So what? You're going to enjoy it. We're going. And it's always a fun trip to go. So we're going to try to get over there.
This is actually just, I'm taking a sip and I'm thinking about how nice it's going to be to actually watch fireworks without having to worry about my dogs or worry about somebody getting hurt, because nobody else is my problem. This vacation.
That's what's going to be really nice about it. And that does bring us to the one other reminder for this weekend. If you guys are listening to us before fireworks, please go home with all your fingers and toes. And if you guys are listening to us after fireworks, we hope you got back home with all your fingers and toes.
Yeah, here's a good hint. If you try and light a bottle rocket out of your butt, you are only going to burn your ass. Seen it. It's not worth it.
That's why you put them in the bottles and you launch them at kids. I
mean, not at them at all, but
no, not
what we're hoping is you guys are safe. Maybe pop a bottle open and have a couple sips and just hang out and let other people handle the pyrotechnics. And to you guys, we say cheers.
Cheers.
So saying I feel super patriotic, I decided that this episode we were going to dive way deeper into some revolutionary crimes. And turns out they're not easy to find.
Yeah, I was going to say, when Shannon proposed this, I was like, I don't think you're going to find what you're looking for. Because records back then were a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, they weren't well kept, and then on top of that, the craziness of a new country being born meant that a lot of people were getting away with a lot of shit. But turns out, that is the exact time that our country, right away from the very beginning, had its first serial killers.
Yep.
I was actually pretty shocked about it. So today we're going to be talking about two guys that have a super long resume, and they have claim to fame for things being like a murderer, rapist, highwayman, river pirates.
See, and that's something that doesn't get nearly enough love as river pirates.
Yeah, and these guys, they have a kill count that's somewhere around 40.
They're bad hombres.
They're super bad. And and they definitely use the cover of the American Revolution to get away with all the terrible deeds that they pulled. So
they just went after the Brits, right?
No, not at
Yeah,
all. These
no.
guys, like you said, they're pretty bad hombres. So guys, go ahead, sit back, enjoy while we tell you about America's first serial killers, the Harper Brothers.
So let's get into who we're kind of talking about today.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
let's go. All right, so we're going to be talking about Micajah Big Harper and Wiley Little Harper. Now, Shannon, I do have a question for you.
Okay.
If two morons, a big moron and a little moron, are standing on a cliff and the big moron falls off, why doesn't the little moron?
Because they're not lemmings?
Because he's a little more on.
Get out. Literally get out
No,
of my house.
no, it's awesome and it's relevant and it's funny.
Okay.
That's from Stephen King, actually.
That was really the worst.
It's the best because it makes so much sense. Now, we're going to call them Big and Little just for the sake of making it easier.
Also, that's their little nicknames that they go by.
Yeah, but I mean, this is also because, they're born Joshua and William Harper. And Joshua, who is big, changed his name to Micajah because they're bandits, and that's what they do. They always change their names. He's 6'4". And Wiley, Little Harp, he's not.
Yeah, he's small and wiry and has red hair and looks almost nothing like his, I don't know, brother, cousin.
Yeah.
It gets confusing at first because the records, let's just say, aren't the best kept, like we already said. So one way that they're recorded is that they are literal cousins, that their fathers are brothers and they are each other's cousins. Other stories go that they're just brothers. But either way, these two guys end up being known officially as brothers.
Yeah,
so we're
as
just
the
going
Harpe
to stick
brothers.
with that.
So, yeah, in order to not split hairs, we're just going to make it easier for us that way. And the Harper family, they come over from Scotland. They end up in Orange County, North Carolina. But the Harper family, they made their political affiliation very clear from the beginning. The entire family, announced their loyalty to the English king, and they vowed to be Tories. And they also served in the Tory militia during the Regulatory War of 1756 to 1771.
So, if that means anything to anybody, if you really think about it, they came over here, they settled down, and then they just said that they were followers of the current government in charge. Honestly, they weren't going to be considered the ones that were traitors, and they just stated, we follow law. But I don't think that they're quite too innocent, and the fact is when things started to really ramp up in this country, I think that this family took the name of the king and was doing a lot of political men at the time and just using the rule of law to get away with some, shady ass shit that they were trying to do for their own good.
Yeah.
Essentially. And they didn't make any they didn't hide that notion from anybody. Everybody in their, in their neighborhood, in their area knew that these guys were loyalists. So if you were going to be talking about the revolution, you weren't necessarily going to hang out with these guys at the table at the inn and let them know what was going on.
And that's, and the table at the end concept here is actually kind of funny. When you're in Boston, you go to this place called the Green Dragon. It's right before, it's on the Constitution Trail, the Revolutionary Trail. And you have people walking in and they're dressed in the redcoats. And then you'll have people that will walk in and they're dressed like the revolutionaries. And you'll see them kind of watch each other and they'll be kind of cosplaying it. So the revolutionary people will be talking at the bar kind of loudly, but then the redcoat people will come in and the guys in blue, the heroes of the story, go America, they'll sneak off and go to a table in the corner and continue their discussion a little bit more hushed. And they don't make a big scene about it, but it's kind of fun to kind of see that because if you go on the drinking
tours.
tours.
A special date that they do this on?
No, they just do it around. Most of the time, I've seen it in the winter. I've seen it in the summertime.
It's like their jobs. This is a thing they do there.
Yeah, it's like reenactment type of stuff.
Okay, can we go? What do? You just ignore them and watch them do their thing?
You just kind of watch them do their thing. I haven't actually interacted with them because whenever I was there, the people I was talking with didn't want to play the game or we weren't part of the drinking trail. So it's kind of part of that. There's a big green trail down Boston. You walk that, and then you walk into bars and you hear the stories of it. And this one called the Green Dragon is where the revolutionaries used to speak right under the noses of the Brits to share messages and stuff.
Oh, well, now you know. I didn't know. I hope we go get to see that.
Yeah.
Despite the fact, okay, cool. Back to the point.
Yeah, right. Let's go completely off the rail here. But
I mean, because these guys are in North Carolina, which you know, a lot of people nowadays, you know, you're thinking a lot about Boston, you're thinking a lot about the North, but you know, North Carolina was the original colony, and you know, there are still a lot of things going on in North Carolina, especially, you know. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, it's hard to control these guys because it is a wild country out closer to the mountains.
So wild east or west from England.
But either way, their family was pretty dedicated to the Tory side, especially as things started to ramp up. And people didn't necessarily trust them. And the thing about this is that they kept up these strong loyalist ties all the way up into the point where the Revolutionary War was about to break out. And lo and behold, their dads try and go join the American Patriot side.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, that's literally the answer.
They don't say it that way.
They're not accepted whatsoever. They're like, no, we cannot trust you. I think you're full of shit. We cannot, like, share our secrets with you.
Yep.
And let's just say this doesn't bode well with the Harpe brothers at all. Like, their fathers get denied, so it's more of a less, well, fuck you, and I'm gonna continue doing what we've been doing the whole time, which is use the rule of law to get away with whatever I want to do. So it's at this time...
Literal murder.
Yeah, actually, yeah, because it's at this time that the two brothers actually join a Tory rape gang.
That just sounds terrible.
It does. It sounds awful. And it's exactly what I've described. It's guys using the cover of the Crown in order to say that they're committing rule of law. The only thing is that these guys are basically guerrilla militia, and they're not paid by the Crown. They're not wearing uniforms like the Crown gives out, and they're not actually, like, being told what to do. They're just saying... Yeah, they're just saying, just say, yeah, out of nowhere. They're just saying, like, yeah, what are you going to do? Like, if you don't do what we say, we can say that you're probably traitors, that you're revolutionaries, and we're going to turn you in. So we're going to rob you, we're going to rape you, we're going to do what we want to do. And essentially, they just bullied the countryside in the name of the king.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And according to Captain James Wood of the Continental Army, so again, the heroes, he had to rescue a girl from the gang after the men kidnapped several teenage girls. So really not great people. In 1780, the British decided to utilize these Tory gangs by officially recognizing them and admitting them into their forces as they focused their campaign south.
Which is a bad sign for the Harpe brothers.
So, yeah, it's a bad sign for the Harpe brothers because these guys are getting away with whatever they want, and now you're in the army now, boys.
Yeah, you're actually going to be getting some orders.
We're sending you straight on down to some battles, and, you know, this Tory gang of theirs weren't actually fighting. They were kind of doing, like, this faux espionage to get away with whatever kind of murders they wanted.
Murdering and burning people's homes
That's why I said faux espionage, not real. And they actually they get sent to these 3 battles, and they were shot at by Captain Wood's son on October 7th in a fight at the King's Mountain. And they were seen at the Battle of Blackstock on November 20th, and again they showed up in the Battle of the Cowpens on January 16th and 17th in 1781.
I would find it so hard to fight a revolution when I'm literally realizing I might die over cowpens.
Yeah.
Like, that would suck so bad. But,
You know, Bunker Hill at least has a cool sounding name.
It's just, you see these guys, you know, for years they're saying that they're fighting in behalf of the king, and then all of a sudden, you know, the British pull this law, and suddenly, like, in a number of months, these guys are hitting battle after battle. It's just not what they've signed up for at all. Which is pretty much why they leave.
Yeah.
It's not self-serving, and they're not really getting anything out of it. And basically the guys decide after the cowpens that, you know, they need to go back to doing more violent things, but things that are going to pay them. So they end up abandoning their militia service, and they seek out some of the Chickamauga Cherokee from the area that had been fighting with them, and who also kind of probably were like over it and wanted to go home. So they end up heading to Tennessee, about, you know, west of the Appalachian Mountains. And on their way to the Nickajack settlement.
I love Native American names. They're the best.
I do too. It's actually, and the area, like, up there, Appalachian Mountains are the prettiest I've ever seen of any mountains. And it's so quiet, and a man could just disappear in there. And I think that was the benefit to the Cherokee up there, especially whatever. We all know our history. So anyways, they're heading out to the Nickajack settlement, and on the way there, they end up joining with over 400 Cherokee, and they commit a raid of Bluff Station on April 1st. I mean, so these guys just literally join up with the Native Americans and are outright killing any white guy that they really find, like the settlements and that kind of thing. And I don't think to them it honestly matters if it's British or, American Revolutionary, but
It's people they can hit at.
in general, they're still committing a lot of raids against the revolutionaries under the British pay.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, there's that.
And, while they're doing these raids, by the beginning of June, so it's going to be 1781, they had abducted Maria Davidson, and then only a week later, they took Susan Wood, who
And that name should probably sound familiar.
Yeah, she very well might be the daughter of Captain James Wood of the Continental Army, who was kind of hunting these guys down for a while.
Yeah, and so totally saved a girl from them. Oh,
Yeah.
and their son shot at them, and yeah.
Yeah, they've been messing with the wrong family here. These women are actually it's exactly what the gang seems like it's going to be doing. The women are, they're brutalized and they're turned into these would-be wives and beaten and raped.
Yeah, it's very clear from the beginning that their treatment is very awful. Like, that they have no choice, and they are literally, like, kidnapped victims.
Yeah.
Where they stand a little bit later in the tale, I think that's kind of left up for people to look back at history and figure out, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and of the gang, one named Moses Doss. He speaks up about concern for the women's safety and treatment. And, Big Harp, he's 6'4" guy, and he finds it concerning that Moses would think that these women are actually important. So he just goes outright and just kills Moses.
Yeah, because they're not his women, so what are you paying attention to my women for?
Yeah,
and, what do you care what I do with them?
Yeah, you're going to tell me no?
Yeah, so that doesn't go over too well for him. And the Harpe Brothers just outright murder him for his, concern.
Yeah, you don't be concerned about people. That's not what we pay you for.
So it would seem that the Harpe Brothers, the women that they were keeping as wives, they did end up getting over to the Nickajack settlement, and they ended up living there for the next 12 to 13 years. And during this time, the women did, become pregnant. They are literally acting as wives, and they both became pregnant at least twice. And both times, the Harpe men would end up murdering the children. They had no interest in even their own kids surviving, and I don't think that's what they had these women around for. But no matter what was going on, they still remained there for 12 to 13 years, and while they were in this settlement, they were considered to be guests of the Native Americans. And in being guests, they were expected to join in on the raids and the battles that their group was going to be committing around the area.
And they really had to twist the Harp's arm to get them to do that, let us tell you.
Yeah, exactly. They had zero problem with this. In fact, I think it gave them joy to have someone else planning it out so they could just attend,
Oh, you get to plan all this when we show up. Okay.
So yeah, they had zero problem with this. And in fact, they ended up participating in the Battle of Blue Licks. I love the names up there. And they did that in 1782. They helped a group of British-supported Native Americans defeat a group of Kentuckians. And they also aided in attacks on Bledsoe's Lick in Tennessee. Like, basically, a lot of the surrounding areas were at their mercy.
And there's a lot of licking going on in the South Appalachians.
Yeah. In fact, it's the group in Nickajack had been so active in raids and attacks and harassing the surrounding locals that the American Patriots actually finally decided to have it wiped out in September of 1794.
Let's just end these guys.
Yeah, you were a big enough problem. We're just done. We're just going to wipe it out. But the Harpe Brothers, being, white, ended up using their white contacts to find out that the raid was coming. And instead of telling the men and women and the people in their area that they've been living with for the last 12 to 13 years, hey, they're going to come murder all of you and burn this place down to the ground. No, they don't decide to do that. They actually end up just laying low. And then the night before the battle, they take their wives and they sneak off in the middle of the night.
Yep, time to leave.
They leave everyone to die, but they got out.
Oh, and that's all that really matters.
At least to these guys, yeah.
Yeah, and the tiny group here, the Harpes and their wives, they traveled 2 days before settling in a camp for a 9-month stint.
Yeah,
and
that combination makes me have to wonder. Like, you didn't go very far, so you weren't really worried about them coming after you, but you stayed for 9 months.
I'm guessing they probably murdered a homesteader and took their house because they're living here 9 months and they're spending the time
Kind of
stealing.
sounds like the time it takes to realize someone needs to stop, have a baby, and take care of it for a little bit before going on.
Yeah, that could be true too.
I don't know. I'm just speculating.
You know, and they're out there stealing and foraging from the nearby settlements in the Tennessee mountains. You know, and this is going to be the future Knoxville area, so they're kind of kicking around over there. By 1797, the brothers and their wives were living in a cabin on Beaver's Creek in now Knoxville. When little Harpe decided he wanted to take a new wife, he was bored with his old one.
Well, I mean, he didn't really pick her to say. I mean, other than he literally took her.
He kind of literally picked her. But what he did is he married a local woman who was actually the local minister's daughter. Her name's Sarah Rice. And now that he's got his new wife, little Harpe agreed to hand over his old wife to Big Harpe, who had no issue with this whatsoever.
Why are you going to lose a good lady?
Yeah, she's still got some years in her.
So technically, they had 3 wives among them.
That's a great little family. It's
so weird.
Freaking Game of Thrones shit right here. Eventually, the entire Harpe crew now, the 2 men and the 3 women, you know, they're turned on by their neighbors who rightfully accuse them of stealing horses. And the Harpes, you know, they took off. They're going quick. But they're caught with the stolen horses. And the angry mob escorts them back to the capital. But somehow, the Harpes, they're able to escape again.
Yeah, this seems to be something that these guys are fantastically good at.
It reminds me of that Steve Miller song.
It's like somebody's not tying the knots right or something, because they will continue to do this over and over again. But literally, the same night of their escape. So you think that these guys, you get away and you're going to run, right? Like,
that's what I would do. I'd be
gone. You literally just tried to take me to court and get me murdered. I'm out of here. But that's not how the Harpes feel, because they have deep-seated rage and feelings of revenge for anybody who turns on them, crosses them, screws them over in their eyes, anything like that. So instead of running and hiding, these guys actually turn around and they go to the local inn that they usually frequent. Like, everybody knows that they go here.
That's a smart move.
They come in there because they're looking for a person in particular, and that person just so happens to be named Johnson. And as they come into the inn, they find Johnson. And what they seem to really have an issue with is, suddenly all our neighbors know that we stole their animals, their horses, their pigs, and somebody must have told them. It's not like they could have just suspected us out of nowhere, right? So,
right, Johnson?
According to the story, they're pretty sure this is the fella that turned them in, and they are going to teach him a lesson. So, a few days later, Johnson's body is obviously found, and the reason why we honestly think these guys did it too is because they find the body in such a state that just tends to turn into their regular MO. So they find the body disemboweled, filled with rocks, and tossed into a river to sink.
Yeah, that's about how this is gonna go, guys.
Yeah. So that's it. They find him in the Holstein River, and it literally doesn't matter. Because the brothers are not charged with murder, despite the fact that the innkeeper's like, yeah, I saw them. They were looking for this guy. Because it turns out that the local law enforcement at the time happened to believe that quite possibly that death may have actually been in connection with the innkeeper and his brother-in-law. And hey, isn't it just so suspicious that he just happens to have other guys to point out that did this? But us today literally know, like, this is their MO. Like, this is the thing they like to do to people to get rid of the bodies. So, I kind of think they lost out on catching these guys from the very start.
Yeah, but I mean, that's also kind of their first really reported murder. Everything else kind of happens following that. But now that Johnson, the snitch who got stitches, is kind of gone.
More than stitches. He literally got disemboweled.
Yeah, I doubt they stitched him up all that well.
He got emptied.
Yeah. The brothers end up leaving town, and they head towards Cumberland Gap, and that's where they're going to meet their wives. On the way there, they're on this wilderness trail, and they just murder a man. They follow that up with murdering 2 more men in Kansas who happen to be traveling from Maryland. And it turned out that, again, this was their natural MO. It's brutal overkill, followed by disemboweling, and then stuffing the body with rocks and throwing it in a river.
Yeah, a pretty lazy, disposal method.
Yeah.
Still a little bit more than some people today even do, but in the end, they're just hoping that the bodies just happen to disappear.
Rocks don't float in water, so that body won't float in water either.
And that's just the thing, it's the fact that these guys, their methods of killing are so extreme, such overkill, that a lot of people, they don't really seem to think that their killings had much to do with robbing them and thieving at all. Like, it did seem to be part of it. I highly doubt that they really left anything behind whenever they killed one of these guys. It's not like they would have left his wallet, on his pocket.
Yeah.
But in the end, it seemed like it was more done out of opportunity, and it was done out of sheer joy. Like, because they could, because this person crossed me, because I was just mad this day. And there's really no rhyme to reason as they go on. They're literally just attacking as they go because this is how they survive.
It's not until December 13th in 1799, when they murdered a traveler named John Langford, that the brothers officially gained kind of notice on this. Upon discovery of the body, a local innkeeper had actually pointed authorities to the Harpe brothers. And, he kind of explained that Langford, he's too wealthy and foolhardy for his own good. He's out there flashing silver, and he's got some money. And the brothers see an easy hit that they can take, rob the man, and, and then obviously kill him so he can't say anything to anybody. And the Harpes are actually caught on Christmas Day and imprisoned in Stanford, Kentucky.
Yeah, don't kill a rich dude, man. That's going to get you out.
Yeah, the second you kill someone who's kind of important, that's when it goes down. They had a preliminary hearing on January the 4th, and enough evidence was found to charge the brothers, and they were ordered to be taken to the district court in Danville, Kentucky. Together, the Harpe brothers managed to come up with an escape plan, though. They agreed to abandon the women. All three of them were pregnant at the time, but that didn't make a difference to them. They're just like, nope, we're going to worry about ourselves.
Yeah, this time, not only do they, arrest these guys, but they feel like, at this point, the wives have to be in on it. Like, they must be around at the time or doing, enough that they're suspected. And that's interesting enough to know that these women are arrested, and the fact that they're probably all heavily pregnant. So even that doesn't keep them out of jail at this time. And this is still very Puritan-ish level of rights, religious belief, like how they treat women. Like, most jails don't have a woman's section, So the fact that they take the women in, and the fact that they literally abandon their women, probably doesn't make everyone think too great of the Harpe brothers.
Yeah, not at all, really.
So it would be on March 16th that they finally, just the two of them, sought their freedom. Like we said, it's just the two brothers on the run, and as they're out on their own once more, they just return to their killing spree. They ended up killing one man in late March. They killed another by early April. And by that time, literally a posse had been gathered in order to recapture these guys. Like, literally, you can't let them go, or you're just going to find a string of dead people along the way as you go look for them. So it's funny enough, because on April 10th, that posse that's supposed to be out trying to find these guys, they end up at the home of Colonel Daniel Trabb, that name. So at the time, they're trying to urge the colonel to aid them in chasing down the murderous brothers. Like, dude, this is awful. You got to help us. They're just going to keep killing people in the area. Your only hope. And it's like somehow the Harpe brothers knew that the posse was literally talking to the colonel, because they end up kidnapping the colonel's 13-year-old son and just brutally murdering him and mutilating the body just to
spite him.
Yeah, just a message. Don't try and get me. I will hurt you. I will hurt your family. We are everywhere. It's actually really terrifying, how awful these guys are.
It really is. And, in my opinion, I feel like that's kind of the worst thing you can do, because then it's just going to motivate the man.
I don't think they care. I think they're the kind of serial killers that literally, it's like, fuck it, I don't care, and I'm a bad person, and I want you to feel bad. I want you to know the things I'll do to you. These people don't have a real rhyme or reason. They're just bad people.
And I agree on that. Meanwhile, back in Danville, the three wives, they're actually facing trials on April 15th. And of the three of them, we have an acquittal, we have a mistrial, and we have a conviction.
Which sounds good, right? Somebody's getting convicted.
We're just going to give everyone, we're just going to throw one answer at each of you.
And still, again, they're all pregnant. So the fact that there's even a conviction, it seems like a pretty big deal.
Yep, and the judge, he did offer a new trial to the one who actually been convicted. And in the end, the attorney general decided, about 4 days later, not to bother retrialing her. All three of them were released with their new babies, and they headed to the Cave in the Rock to meet their husbands, as they had been directed by a secret message.
Yeah, this is actually, at the time, a pretty well-known area in Illinois that is literally a cave in a big, gigantic rock. But
I was wondering where it got its name.
Shut up. But the interior is this huge labyrinth. It seemed like a great, stronghold for a lot of river pirates. If you were an outlaw, this was the place to go because people weren't going to be able to come in and get you out.
River pirates just seem super awesome.
Okay, cool.
By April 22nd, 1799, Big and Little Harper had a price on their head. The governor in Kentucky had actually issued a $300 reward for each of their heads. In today's money, that's about $6,000 a piece.
Yeah, that's insane amount of money in the Revolutionary times.
Yeah, and it was now that the two men had actually had to cave in the rock.
Yeah, because they literally have already left jail before their wives even left jail, and they've just been wandering around the area, still just randomly killing people. And it takes like them really pushing the line and getting the price put on their head for them to actually get their asses moving to Illinois.
Yep.
So between the opportunity and the fact that they just had sheer murderous intent, they ended up killing along the way, all the way towards this, I don't know, this hole in a rock or whatever.
Cave in a rock.
So on their way, they ended up murdering two men named Edmonton and Stump.
He had a half a leg.
Shut up. It's so unfortunate. And that's the thing is, like, our records aren't great, and we have only a couple, like, tales, and usually it's after the fact. So it's like, that's what the information I have on this poor guy. And he lost his life over it, and we, like, have that much on him. And after he ends up killing these two guys, they actually neared the mouth of the Saline River and ended up coming upon a camp of 3 more men, and they just outright killed and robbed all of them as well. So it's honestly like if you just cross these guys' path, you are in the wrong place at the wrong time. I feel like this is one,
if someone is playing Red Dead Redemption and just playing the bad guy, that's what's going on right now.
Exactly. So between their rampant killings and then the price on their head, the local militias were really, really, like, pushed to do something, and they definitely got involved, and they were actively hunting these guys down. And in actively hunting them down, they were really just pulling out every outlaw that they could find, and in doing so, they ended up killing about 12 or 13 other people anyways. But
You're bad. You're coming with us.
But it's like you turning the light on in a room and watching, you know, the cockroaches run. Like everybody is leaving. I mean, literally people are dying over this. And so many actually found themselves being pushed downriver, including the Harpe Brothers, who would eventually make their way to this famous cave in the rock to meet their wives. And they ended up getting to the stronghold, and it's still held by local river pirates. And it's mainly held by the Samuel Mason gang. And so getting there, basically the gang had realized what was happening. The militias were pushing all these outlaws out, and they were just accepting all these bad guys who were coming and asking, like, hey, just take me in. Like, they'll fucking kill me. They'll take me away if they catch me. I will fight for you. I will be one of your gang. And yeah, his gang grew big time during this moment. And
great for business.
And it literally all had to do with the Harpe Brothers.
They were great for business.
So the Harpe Brothers actually show up as well, and they're accepted. It's just like, literally, yeah, you could be part of the gang as long as you do what the gang wants to do, which is they literally took advantage of all the slow, overladen boats that were trying to go up and down the Ohio River. So if you had anything that was just a little bit faster than what was basically a giant raft, then yeah, you were a pirate. You could take and kill and do whatever you fucking wanted, and then just run back to your little cave and you'd be fine.
And no one's gonna come to that cave.
And like, funny enough, they take all these guys in, everyone's running from the militia, people are dying, and the gang, the Mason gang, is actually getting ready for the fight. Like, they're preparing to fight off the militia who's coming for the Harpe Brothers, and it just, weirdly by coincidence, that the militia just literally stops, like, a couple miles before they ever reach the cave in the rock.
See, and what
like, they just
really
give up.
confused me on that one is, do they know Cave in the Rock is there and it's just a bunch of angry pirates?
Maybe.
Or do they not know Cave in the Rock is there and it's actually a really well hidden secret?
I mean, if we're still talking about a militia, we're not necessarily talking about a real tactical military unit. We're talking about farmers who happen to have a gun that takes 3 minutes to fucking load.
Muskets, not mullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that they have rifles that take 3 minutes to load, or they know that they literally just pushed every single bad guy that they couldn't catch into this corner. Maybe they literally just were like, yeah, you know what? Around this bend is just, it's good. We're good.
Yeah.
We'll just call it good.
It's a silly place over there.
We just don't need to do that. So yeah, they all prepped up for a fight that never actually came, and then everyone just ended up joining the Mason gang.
And, you know, Samuel Mason's gang, they weren't lightweights. As we said, they're regularly hunting down the boats on the Ohio River, And even Mason's gang here, who they're just hunting everybody, they came to hate the Harps, finding them to be cruel and, in a word, terrible.
Yeah, it's bad when the bad guys are like, you're fucking bad.
Yeah, when the pirate people are not accepting of you, it's not good. They'd actually been appalled as the brothers picked up a new pastime.
Yeah, they actually pick up a terrible pastime because despite the fact that everyone here is a thief and a killer, these guys are kind of under the belief that they can still do whatever they want, whenever they want, and it's just funny. And that includes murdering people. So it just so happened on one evening in May 1799, after these guys had a hugely successful raid, they all came back to the cave, and in tow they had one survivor. And I don't know what their intentions were with the survivor. Maybe they were going to hold him ransom. Maybe they were going to take him on in the gang. Maybe they just, plan on killing him later. It doesn't really matter. It just matters that he's the only guy left to see any of this happen. And everyone's just having a great time. They get royally drunk, piss poor, passed out. And by the time it's the middle of the night and most people are just done for the evening, the Harpe Brothers get this fascination with the lone survivor. They decide they're going to have some fun.
Oh boy, I don't really care to hear their definition of fun.
Nobody's going to care to hear their definition of fun. So these guys decide that they're going to take this guy onto the top of the cliffs above the cave.
Nope.
And they strip him naked. They tie him to a horse. They blindfold the horse, not him.
Oh, god damn it.
And then they set the horse off running. And they send it right over the end of the cliff. There are literally written reports of the guys inside in the cave waking up to the sound of hoofbeats and yelling and screaming, and they literally run out just in time to watch this poor animal go running off the side of the cliff, try and run in midair, and then both of them, like as they're coming down, like just the sheer terror on the guy's face, the naked guy's face on the back of the horse, because they didn't blindfold him.
Yeah, I know. He knew it was coming.
Yeah, he had every moment of that, like, in his brain. And then they all just watched them both die on rock. And honestly, this is the point where the guys are like, we're done. You have to leave. All of you. Your wife, your kids, like, get the fuck out. You're not good peoples. And they do. Like, they're just like, yeah, you guys are right. And they do. They collect their family and they leave.
They go and change their way, don't they?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they live a super clean, healthy Christian life.
Big went and became a priest, didn't he?
No, not at fucking all.
Not at all. No.
You go on.
Yeah, okay, by July, they murder a farmer named Bradbury, and then later a man named Hardin. On July 22nd, they murder a boy named Chelsea Coffey, just 8 miles northwest of Knoxville. Only 2 days later, they killed William Ballard, and his body was found disemboweled and tossed into the river.
Yeah, they're back to their old MO.
Yeah,
they don't stick to it all the time.
But you can tell where they've been. On July 29th, the brothers came across James and Robert Brassel on the road near Brassel's Knob. The Harpe brothers took the opportunity to have some fun and decided to pretend to be the very posse that was out to capture them.
Yeah, so they literally come out, see these guys, think, we're going to have some fun with them, and they literally accuse these guys of being the Harpe brothers.
Yeah.
Like, we're out searching for these, and they're bad dudes, and you're them, you're outlaws. And these guys are literally just pissing their pants, going, no, like, we're not. We're seriously not. Like, we own this area. Like, we're not those guys. We're not bad guys.
Please, we're not them. We just live here. Robert Brassel, one of the brothers, he ran off to go get help. And with Robert run off, the Harpers decided to beat James to death.
Yeah, most of their fun was about to be over. Some guy ran off and was going to get help. Gotta end this right now.
Yep. And, they weren't caught for this one. In August, as they headed to Kentucky, they murdered a man named John Tully.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is like, before we've seen them maybe killing in the aspect of battles, then they're long times between raids, but it's still like a planned out event. And then as soon as these guys get out on their own, it's like it goes from months at a time where they kill a couple people. So this is like literally every other day.
Yeah, it's
like
very often.
They're unchained.
And, they're trying to keep ahead of the posse that's got the reward out for their heads. The brothers start moving south of central Kentucky, where they kill John Graves and his teenage son by hitting them in the head with an axe. Brothers eventually cross paths with an encamped traveling family, and they chose to murder everyone as they slept, including the servants and slaves.
Yeah, and like that's just the thing that people are just like, well, maybe it's robbery, maybe they're just doing it for the money.
No,
but
this
again,
isn't just...
it's literally if you just cross their path.
Yeah.
Like you could be a child, you could be a slave. It doesn't matter to them. Like they have zero sympathy. It's at this time, like, they even end up killing a young black boy as he's headed off to a mill, and they don't even rob him. Like, they leave, like, the things that he's carrying on the side of the road. And then just after that, they end up killing a young white girl. So it's not about color, it's not about race, it's not about sex. It's literally, if they can do it and get away with it, they're going to do it. They've lost their minds. And that's why we could just point out, like, neither of these murders had to do with financial gain. They're just bloodthirsty. But at some point during, like, a small little respite at their own camp where they feel a little bit safe despite the fact that there's a posse out for them, Big Harpe even murders one of his own daughters.
See,
it's not like he hasn't before, but again, at this time, the little girl is crying and he just can't handle it, and he ends up taking her and hitting her up against a tree till she dies. And literally, this will be the only murder during his entire life that he'll even say that he might have some kind of regret about. That was it. Just this one. Fuck everybody else. But, like, that one maybe shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, maybe not that one.
That same month, the body of another man was yet again found disemboweled and floating in another river, this time in Highland Creek. And it's just somehow at this point, the family manages to find another family to actually take them in. So they actually use the women and what children they have in their family to kind of try and convince other people that they're innocent, that, you know, they're just down on their luck. Will you take us in? Will you help us out? And it's at this time that they're given shelter by the Stegall family in Webster County.
This isn't going to end well, is it?
No, because the Harpes instantly repay them with a ton of violence. So first, they murder another overnight guest, Major William Love. Then one of the brothers turns on the Stegall's 4-month-old baby and slits its throat because it's crying.
Oh, okay.
Because he can't, for some reason, handle that whatsoever. And then, obviously, seeing the fact that her infant child was just brutally murdered, Miss Stegall starts screaming, and they end up killing her just because she's screaming.
Yeah, well, also, if she saw them murder, she's a witness, so you can't keep those people around.
Obviously, the Harpes and their family, they take off after these murders, but they actually didn't murder everyone in the house. And they feel that the posse, which is probably very true, is growing and very angry and wants them. They cannot stay here any longer. And in fact, at this point, the posse includes the widower, Moses Stegall, the guy who literally just lost his baby and wife, is fucking pissed.
And he's probably properly motivated to come after these guys right now, too.
So it's at this time, finally, on August 24th, 1799, that the Harpes actually get tracked down by the posse. So the posse, you know, they find them, they call out to these guys like, hey, come on out, like, give yourselves up, we're here for you. And the men aren't doing this. They never have ever wanted to surrender. You're gonna have to fucking kill me to get me. And they both take off. They both flee on horseback. And it's during this retreat that Big Harpe, because he's a big target at this point.
6'4" giant man.
He does actually get shot, and he gets shot in the leg and he gets shot in the back. And while his injuries slow him down, Little Harpe literally just leaves him behind and goes on.
So their brotherhood only goes so far, but murdering 400 people or 40 people isn't beyond it.
Same, but a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit. Just
there's an F in there.
A few, yeah.
So eventually the posse finally catches up to Big Harpe because he's literally just bleeding out on top of a horse. And once they get on top of him, they literally rip him off the back of his horse. He's laying in the dirt, bleeding out. He confesses to over 20 murders. And at this point is the time that he admits that the only one he regrets is killing his baby daughter for crying.
Yeah.
And, I think it literally breaks the widower, who's literally, he's here, he's seeing this, and he comes up to Big Harpe after the confession, takes out a knife while the guy's still alive, and just slowly starts to hack his head off. He is getting his revenge.
You know, he finishes removing the head, and he hands it over to the group, and they hang it from a pole at the crossroads, and for years, this area had been called Harpe's Head.
Yeah, there's actually a haunting story that even goes along with that says that Harpe years ago actually pissed off a bunch of witches. That he was mocking witches at a site that a Native American had showed him and said that witches had spent time there and that's why the dirt doesn't grow. And in order to just show how badass Harpe was, he had actually jumped around from spot to spot daring the witches to come out. So now the story is that they hung his head, and in the middle of the night a witch came to the crossroads, took his head and crushed it up into a fine powder for her magic. And you can hear her laughing on the night's wind if you stand at the crossroads at Harpe's head.
All right. That's ghostly and creepifying. I love it.
But, with Big Harpe dead, that really left Little Harpe lacking his true other half. Who gives a shit about the women at this point? Big Harpe dead, Little Harpe on the run. And the fact is their wives and children are literally abandoned at their camp. They didn't have time to take them with them and didn't really care about taking them anywhere. So the women actually ended up being collected by the posse that lost out on getting Little Harpe, but did manage to kill Big Harpe. And they end up taking the women to Henderson and placing them in a big empty blockhouse. Like, bitch, y'all's husbands like to escape, so we're just going to leave you in here for now.
Here's the door. We're locking it.
So then on September 4th, 1799, all three were charged with being parties to the murders of Mary Stegall, her infant, and Captain Love. Like we said before, they were kind of used as, bait. Hey, here's women and children, we're not really bad guys, kind of put your guard down. So according to the law, these women would have been, complicit.
Yeah, accomplices.
So they actually held the trial in Russellville, but all three of them ended up getting released in October. Because like I said, I think they're women. It's unusual to even put a woman on trial. And then the fact that we're literally just still getting over all the hangings we did from the Salem witch trials. These states are really, really against actually executing women.
Yeah, it's definitely a taboo.
With one of the husbands dead and the other one literally disappeared, doesn't look like he's coming back for them. They just let him go. In the end, Susan Wood, she remains in Russellville. Maria Davidson, she's actually going by the alias of Betsy Roberts, and she goes and moves to Illinois and remarries. And Sally Rice Harpe, she returns to her family in Knoxville, and she remarries into a respectable family. All three women actually marry into respectable families and have quiet lives and big families and, die, in old age. And in reality, maybe at first, especially the two first ones, might have been some weird Stockholm Syndrome kidnap shit.
Yeah.
But in the end, they did have the opportunity to not meet up with their husbands, to not follow through with these things. There's a time where you can not blame a victim, and there's a time where you have to admit that these bitches might just be complicit.
Yeah, they might have been part of it. But, our story's not done yet. Little Harpe, he did manage to get away. And he's missing his murderous half, as
I put it.
Yeah, as you put it. And, he returns to the River Pirates at Cave in the Rock, and he joins the Mason Gang, now going by the alias of John Seton.
Yeah, he can go back to them because his brother's dead, and maybe he can convince them he's not such a bad guy after all.
It was all Big's fault, not mine. He stays with them for the next 4 years, continuing his violent life of striking at traveling riverboats. So he kind of, as far as our records show, relaxed a little bit. Let's just do regular pirate shit.
I'm just doing pirate shit with my pirate friends.
I just want to do pirate stuff with my friends. And, so he's just doing that. That is, until Little Harpe, he hears word that there's a large reward for the head of Samuel Mason. And that's the leader of the pirate gang.
Yeah, who doesn't want some fat cash, man?
So Little Harpe here and a fellow pirate named James May, they actually managed to attack and behead Mason. And the two...
Yeah, because when they say there's a price on your head, it literally meant there's a price on your head.
On your head, yeah. You bring us that head, and we're going to give you some money for it. And the two, they leave Cave in the Rock, and they travel into town with their prize to collect the reward on it. But, they're not too bright.
No, this is literal outlaws turning in the head of an outlaw. This is people dumb enough today to turn in other people while you still literally have a warrant out on your ass. Don't go into the police department.
So they go into town and they're trying to turn this head in, but they're quickly arrested.
Yeah, they're totally recognized.
They get arrested on the spot, but they also manage to escape and then get recaptured. So
Yeah, they do the try and true because they're good at escaping, but
they're batting about 50% on this one.
yeah, they definitely get caught.
Yep, and then when they are recaught, they have a fast trial where they're sentenced to be hanged. And in January of 1804, the two men were hanged and their heads were cut off and placed on stakes along Natchez Road.
Yep, just another sign that maybe you shouldn't break the law.
Yeah, come on guys, follow the rules.
But literally, that is how it came to end over decades of killing from just two men that had literally over 40 kills to their names.
And just terrorizing the countryside.
Yeah, had no actual rule of law that could basically stop them. And that is our country in its freshest, babyest form, popping out its first serial killers.
Yep. So we want to thank you guys for joining us on this 4th of July.
Yeah, and so thank you guys again for listening. And if you're just binging on your podcast during your 4th of July break, don't forget that we have a ton of episodes out there for you to just listen to, maybe escape that family. And until the time it goes to go watch some pyrotechnics outside, just be safe and careful.
So have fun, guys, but not too much fun.
You guys, I hope you have a great Independence Day. And until next time,
See ya.
bye.